ladies and gentlemen? Deja Vu here, bringing you some more StarCraft commentary. This is going to be from the Winners League. And StarCraft, and from what I understand, most of professional sports and things like that in Korea are all kind of on a 1 week or so hiatus due to the Lunar New Year being celebrated. So you're getting a lot of special TV shows and things like that, but not a whole lot of traditional gaming and things. So I'm going to go back to last week. I guess now it's only been 3 or 4 days or so since this has been played, but this is going to be the series between STX Seoul and We Made Fox. I'm going to cast this entire series. This is going to be between We Made Fox is Baby. I'm sorry, not Baby, Midas. He's going to be in the bottom left. And then for STX Seoul, you probably don't recognize him from his face there, and that is going to be Last. Last is in red or brown here in the top right. So you probably have heard of Midas before. He's been around. He is a very old school gamer. I think he's, let me check. He is 25 years old, or 23 years old. I don't know why it says 25 on Team Liquid. He's 23, almost 24. So he's been around for a while, and he's had some good runs into a couple different Star Leagues, WCG and things. Hasn't really won too much, but he's been a very solid player throughout his career, greater than 55% in all of his matchup, and just very, very solid. So definitely a good player and a good depth player for We Made Fox, and good player to start off really in a Winners League type of format. He's a good guy to start off a King of the Hill series. And for STX Lasts, don't really know a lot about him. I remember like maybe a year ago, a season ago or so, that he was winning some good TVTs against some good players. I think they were like late game TVTs, something like that. He was actually playing pretty well, but he kind of disappeared off the face of the map and hasn't been doing too much recently. Hasn't played a lot of games, and he is going to go with the forward racks here. And in TVT, it's hard to tell how committed this is really going to be to doing a pressure build. Forward racks is a lot of times in TVT, even though they're built forward, they tend to just have a couple of supply depots built, and then, or not supply depots, a couple of marines built, maybe go for a mini rush, send another marine or two home, and then just lift off the barracks for scouting purposes. And it's not really a cheese per se; it's just a forward racks, and it helps players out in that they do get an earlier scout on with the rack, since they don't have to wait for it to fly, which is obviously very, very slow. We do have gas from Last, but not a gas from Midas. So Midas is going to go with one rack straight into CC here, and he does have his rack going up as well. So even though Last will be able to get some marines into position to try and do some harassment and maybe try and stop this, Midas should be fine in terms of getting his base up. He should not struggle too much in terms of getting this command center up. The only thing to watch out for is that now that Last knows about this so early, we could see Last go for a very hyper-aggressive build. Since he does have that refinery up, we could see him throw down a factory, maybe even 2 factories very, very early, and try and end this game right away, and not even let this second command center come into play in terms of economics. That would actually be a pretty interesting choice from Last, probably a pretty good choice, unless he's got some other idea of how he's going to try and hinder Midas, because he obviously can't afford to just let nothing happen. If he throws up a command center now, he'll just be so far behind. So we'll see what he decides to do. I think this will be a factory. No, he has stopped 2 miners on gas, so it looks like he's going to do 1 factory and then is going to go get an expo himself. I really don't like this from Last. I mean, with 1 factory, he's really not going to be able to do too much harassment, and with the command center going up, he's probably not going to be a Wraith build or anything like that, so he's not really going to punish Midas for getting this early base, even though he found out about it very, very early. I'm not a big fan of this play, and he's just ceding the advantage straight off to Midas, really. By the time Last gets a 2nd and 3rd factory up, I mean, Midas should probably be in pretty good shape to counter it with his own. His factory is almost completed, about halfway done, and there's a vulture coming in, but there's a bunker already up for Midas, and he's already filled it up with marines and has a barracks in the way as well. And now he's building a supply depot to complete the wall in, so the vulture's not going to be able to get any sort of a run by, and he'll be safe and just be able to work off of his 2 bases. Now we'll see what Last decides to do. I think this hold on 1 second. Oh man, sorry about that. I got something caught in my throat and it was just scratching out there. Couldn't really talk there. Oh man, it's still there. Alright, I'm back. Sorry about that. I had like some fibrous, organic, upply thing stuck in my throat that was scratching me, and it was kind of painful there, but so I had to go and get like a drink and stuff. But but I think I'm good now to continue. But like I was saying, I think this game's really going to depend upon what Last decides to do. I think Midas is playing pretty standard here now that he's got a second base up freely, getting a couple more factories. He's going to get his upgrades. Everything is going to be pretty standard, clean cut, on time. And what is Last going to do to counter that? Because he's already behind in terms of the economics. He's not going to be able to do any harassment here early on. His siege will probably be finished a little bit earlier. If he can do something with that, maybe he can try and do something. I really don't think it's very likely. Oh my god, Midas, what was that? That was some really bad micro, and we got that from his first person point of view too. And if you were watching like I was watching that, I saw his click, and I could tell right as he was clicking that was going to happen, that he was going to lose all of that. So I mean, maybe if Midas is going to mess up like that here in the early game, maybe, just maybe, Last can do some damage, and a couple of vultures for Midas sneaking out and evading that tank. So he's going to go try and do some counter harassment, but doesn't look like he's going to have too much luck, and Midas really just needs to run. I don't know what he's trying to do here, why he's trying to engage so much, and yeah, that was pretty bad for Midas. He's lost a lot of units here in the early game. I really was not expecting him to try and do some pressure off of this. I thought he was just going to try and play very, very standard, and I think that might have been that's a pretty big mistake here by him, especially once siege mode finishes for Last. I mean, those tanks are going to do a ton of damage to that bunker, and there are no siege tanks out yet for Midas. Obviously, siege is not yet finished either, and he got those vultures out early, so he got vulture speed first, not even getting mines, not getting any sort of siege either, so he's going to be dependent upon these vultures, and the fact that he's got more factories producing and getting another run by here and trying to go. Looks like he's going to try and do some harassment, and Last doesn't really have too much there to defend, but Midas doesn't have anything to defend either. So what is going to happen here? Who's going to do more damage? And Last is going to struggle to do more damage just because he's not going to have the reinforcements, and sorry, Midas is going to struggle to do damage because he's not going to have the reinforcing units, and Last is going to have those three tanks that are going to really allow him to pound at the vultures of Last, as long as he's able to keep some meat shields in front, as long as he's able to keep some of his vultures alive in front, which doesn't look like he's been able to do, only one left. Mine's finally completed here for Midas, so he'll at least be able to stop these tanks from just marauding in, and if Last plays kind of poorly, we could see him maybe run into some of these mines and lose a tank or two, and that would definitely swing the game back into Midas's favor and give him a nice comfortable exit from his base. But right now, still Midas is still in a little bit of trouble here. There's still vultures coming into his base. We still have those three siege tanks right outside, and Last, I'm shocked that he doesn't have siege yet. It should be finishing soon. Yeah, he does. He is getting the upgrade. Armory coming up as well for Last. So this is really, really nice by Last. There is the siege mode, and now Midas is gonna have to come up with something. He's gonna have to do something to stop this. He cannot afford to lose that command center. He's gonna have to repair, and he's waiting for siege on his machine shop to finish. He'll siege up and then run his vultures in as well to take the damage, and also to try and lay some mines, engage the other vultures of Last, and try and pick off those tanks. It's hypercritical that he picks off those tanks. Actually, it looks like he's produced a vulture, or not sorry, a vulture, a wraith, and he's trying to pick at the siege tanks. Right now he's picking at the SCV to stop the repairing, but this is going to take some time for a single wraith to do much to these tanks. It's going to take quite a while, and this entire time is going to be time that Midas is going to have to be repairing that command center until he gets enough forces there that he can gang rush those tanks. So Last has done a good job here, taking advantage of some errors by Midas with his first few vultures, establishing a good position here to harass, and has really evened this game up. And it's definitely gotten very, very interesting. We have two raids out now for Midas, and he is trying to break out. It looks like he's going to be able to. It looks like two of the tanks are down, one tank remaining, and there goes the final tank. So Midas has broken out. Last contain has been broken, and he is taking kind of a secondary position here at the choke in the middle map. This is Bloody Ridge, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that, but in the middle of the map, kind of like on Heartbreak Ridge, there's just a double expansion base, but it's not a high ground like it is on Heartbreak Ridge. It's all low ground, surrounded more just by cliffs in this case. Midas trying to swing some of his vultures around the bottom set of ramps, gonna get caught by the vultures, and a couple of Goliaths as well for Last to counter those wraiths, and he's gonna have to use those Goliaths pretty wisely. I think he's got scan, probably. already by now, or he's on the way to getting it, I'm sure, very, very shortly. He's really going to need it, that's for sure. And Midas clearing away most of the mines out of there, and yep, he's gonna get away with it. He's got a lot of tanks, actually. It looks like about 6 or 7 tanks, so he's got a pretty solid force ready to push out right now. And Last is going to be put on the counter defensive, if you will. And oh Jesus, Midas, careful! Arr! So close with those mines. Very, very scary, but he's got enough units there just in general. I was just a little bit concerned because some of his tanks were actually spread away from the rest of his units, and you generally need 3 units to pick off mines with, you know, confidence as a Terran player. And Midas now going in, going to try and set up his own contain to counter Last, and is he going to pick off a tank? Yeah, he is going to get 1 tank, but this is going to be kind of a pseudo stalemate as both players get up their 3rd bases, and it looks like Last is going to be a little bit earlier. Shouldn't be too significant though. Last also choosing to get up some missile turrets here. He's got 3 machine shops for Last, 2 for Midas, so Last is really going to be pumping out some tanks here shortly. He is kind of behind on tanks, it seems, so probably going to try and even up that count here, and then try and pump back into vultures, into the mobility of the vultures. Last also not choosing to keep his units as consolidated as Terran players often do, and choosing to kind of spread them out across the map a little bit, a group here, a group there, not allowing Midas to use his vultures as effectively as Midas is trying. Midas has really been trying to just throw his vultures around all kinds of different areas, and Last has actually been doing a pretty good job of kind of guessing where they're going to be, keeping his units in intercept spots. So doing a pretty good job there, I gotta say, by Last, not allowing those vultures to maraud as much as Midas wants them to. We got a couple starports coming up for Last, and it looks like, I don't know if this is gonna be Wraiths or not. The one looks like it can't really get a control tower, but obviously you can lift, so it's hard to tell. One is gonna be getting Wraiths at least to counter Midas's Wraith. Man, I'm back to having all my language troubles and figuring out which one's which. Did he just cancel his starport? What the hell was that? He almost finished his starport and then he canceled it, built 1 Wraith, lifted it. I don't even know what that was. That was very, 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 very confusing to me. I have no idea what he was doing there. That was just absolutely weird. Yeah, I'm just going to ignore that happening because I don't even know what that was. Midas is going to get a 4th base at the top left, and he's going to catch Last's singular lone Wraith, and Last was just completely unprepared for that happening. I mean, now things are starting to go a little bit poorly for Last. He's been kind of contained here. He is getting his 4th base up as well at the bottom right, but it's going to be hard for him to defend that, as well as Midas will be able to defend his because of Midas's defensive point, where he's got kind of like this forward siege going on, and Midas kind of having a willy-nilly attack here, but it looks like it's gonna work. At least somewhat. And then he's also attacking at the bottom of the map as well, so kind of a 2-pronged assault going on here. Looks like Midas is going to win in the north, but he's going to lose in the south. Last has enough tanks there to defend, and now Last sieging up as well in the north and close to his own base, but going to be sieging up late. There's a lot of vultures there and a bunch of tanks going down right now. If there's some mines on these vultures, it could be very, very poorly. There is a mine, and that is going to cause so much damage. There it goes. There goes another tank and almost kills the 2nd tank. And the refinery, at the lateral expansion for Last, is going to go down as well, so things are looking rather grim right now for Last. Things are kind of falling apart, losing that Wraith, some weird starport building stuff going on, not really sure what he was doing. He's building up some more factories now, but it's going to be a little while before he'll be able to even out the unit count. He is behind, certainly, on the army. And I really think that this southern group for him, that's kind of close to Midas's base, is going to fall pretty soon. And this bottom right-hand base is going to be imperative that Last defends it, because otherwise he will be down a base again, and down 2 gas, not just 1, as he would be as long as he can get that up. So it's going to be really important that he keeps a good defense there and doesn't allow this push to go any farther into his natural. He can't allow his rally point to start getting siege or anything like that. He'll be just in absolute hell if that was to happen.